In for it.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're at in this big, beautiful world we live in. My name is Cody, and you're listening to Behind the Premium podcast, where each week we are investigating the broken system and the hidden costs of healthcare, going over what is waste, what businesses need to be asking, and everything in between to help everyone save and have a good, happy life. Joining me today are a group of panelists, but before we introduce them, I kind of wanted to paint a picture of what we're going to be talking about today. So if you can kind of just imagine your insurance renewal lands on your desk and premiums are up 18%. Your broker says this is the best they can do. It's market conditions, rising costs, all unavoidable. So you sign. But what if I told you that moment right before you sign is one moment that you have the greatest power all year long when it comes to your healthcare costs? So today we are joined by HR, wellness, and broker. We have a broker here, and we have another one or two that might be joining us a little bit later in the show. But we definitely want to get their take on questions that could save you thousands, if not hundreds of thousands each year. So before you sign that next renewal, let's talk about what you need to ask. So again, joining me today is a jam-packed, full panelist of just different backgrounds, and let's go around and start meeting them. Since Brad is our new one, we'll let him go a little bit later so he can kind of get a flavor for what it's like, but we'll start off with Rhonda.
Thank you, Cody. Thanks for having us. My name's Rhonda Nirenberg. I'm the founder of WellTrio, a company that's started because healthcare costs were out of control. And we do very focused one-on-one coaching, high touch, proactive engagement with the employees to help reduce costs so the insurance goes down for employers.
Awesome. Well, welcome. And we'll just kind of keep going around the horn here. Insa, how are you?
Hi, this is Inessa Rizix. I'm a people and culture leader, and I'm part of Sunstone HR Consulting. We do fractional work for, and we're plug and play into any organization, whether the need is small or big in term. So feel free to reach out. But I'm here to definitely, I've had many years of HR experience, been part of the open enrollment as a customer and as leading it. So I have some good ideas of things that we need to look out for. So happy to be here, and thank you, everybody.
Perfect. Thanks for being here as well. Welcome you back as a returning guest. So we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. Monique, go for it.
Hello, everybody. My name is Monique. I work with Rhonda at WellTrio, and I'm a health and benefits advocate and wellness coach with the company. And I've been with them for about 8 years, and people are my passion. So I'm sure we'll dig a little bit more into that today.
Love it. Love it. And last but not least, Brad, go for it, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm Brad Kitchen, and I am the founder of Utah Healthcare Agency, and I help employers find the best plans for their employees. So love doing it, and it's a lot of fun. So
perfect. And we have another guest that's joining us. Maybe he jumped off. But thanks for being here, Brad. We appreciate it. So with that being said, let's just kind of kick off the very first question that I have for you. It's kind of one of those things, and I will play the business side of it, but I'm curious to see what you guys have to say about why do smart business leaders treat insurance renewals like signing a cable bill instead of a major business decision? So feel free to jump in whenever you have the answer or want to share your thoughts on it.
It's probably one of their biggest bills. I think that's for sure. I think, it's an important factor for any employee, but it's definitely one of the biggest bills, and so they also need they may not be as versed about it, right? They might not understand why they're signing bills. They might not understand why do we need to have X, Y, and Z. There's usually, depending on who you're with, there's an employee fee, there's a company fee, there's a combination of different fees. But as I think it's one of the most important things for wellness within the organization, right? So I think for sure, and it's usually coming on the when the books haven't closed yet, right? And they don't, and things along those lines. So I think that's one reason, right? But we'll talk about further why I do think that this is an important bill that they need to sign and really invest in for their employees.
I like it. Does anybody have anything else they want to add to it?
I will. I think one thing that employers may not know when they sign that document is that they are signing that they are the fiduciary for the plan, which means they are responsible, not business, but actually personally, to make sure that the plan is in the best interest of the employee. And that's a big responsibility, and they should look at it carefully and understand the benefits and how they're being used. There's some big lawsuits going on right now. Johnson & Johnson, they're being sued because of the fiduciary responsibility.
Yeah, that makes total sense. How about anybody else? Brad, Monique?
I
How about we let ladies go first?
Agreed.
Okay, so I was going to say, to add to that, I think that a lot of these people that are signing these think it is a lot like their cable bill or their cell phone bill. Oh, there's 3 options. This is the best one. They don't realize that they have a lot more power than they think they do. So they're really quick to sign with the options that are presented to them, not realizing there's a lot behind the curtain that they could be asking for or asking about that isn't being revealed to them because they're so eager to sign and get this off their plate because it is a stressful decision. So I think that's where the decision to sign it like it is just an average bill running across their desk comes from, is not realizing that it's not, and there is more opportunities and more options that are being presented initially.
Yep. Good point.
Yeah.
All right.
It's been a while since I've had to renew a utility bill or internet bill or something, or cable bill. The last time I did, it was such a headache. Like, they wanted to reduce the rate or transferred me to somebody else who would try to sell me to up the plan. And I think you times that by how many employees you have. Like, okay, now I have to find a new doctor, and I have to find prescriptions, and it's just such a process to move that along that people hesitate they just want to go with the easiest thing and sign it.
Yeah, I would agree. Coming at it from a business owner standpoint, yes, I would strongly agree with Monique that it's one of those things that just come across my plate. And you know what, to be honest, I'm just going to throw it on my credit card and get the points for it because I don't really care to take the time to do it a lot of times. But since starting this and working with Well Trio, I've definitely learned that there are a lot more options out there, and I don't have to pay the hefty bill each and every year. So that's one thing. So when it comes to that kind of point of view, typically renewals are sent out, like 30 to 60 days before the actual deadline that they need to do. Is that timeline designed to help make a good decision, or do you feel like that's just a way to rush people into signing up for the same renewal at a higher rate?
So my experience is that you usually get it at the end of August, September timeframe. And I think it's because they don't have enough claims history to know what your rates are going to do. So I think they're trying to get it to you as early as possible, but have enough data to make a good next year forecast. So I don't know that they're trying to push it on you. I think they actually would like to not have it all come down to the end of the year because it makes such a busy time. But you just don't have enough claims data.
I mean, I would agree with that. I think that they're gathering information from the plan year to see what the data is and why things are moving, the costs are usually rising. So if it's like catastrophic care or whatever is happening within the company, I would say in my experiences, it hasn't necessarily been that 60-day window. I've had I think it depends on the organization you're working with the broker, outside vendor, et cetera, how big and small they are, and how curated they are, and how also, and so, I mean, usually it's like a timeline. Unfortunately, I've had the experiences of having very short timelines with information still coming after the fact. And so, I think I'm sure we'll get into it, but I think there's a lot of things we can do ahead of time just in the organization ourselves, just to kind of get ourselves prepared. Maybe not knowing exactly what the rates would be, but at least doing the industry and understanding that the rates will probably go up high. So planning for that and financially on the back end. But I'll leave that for the next questions.
That's good. That's good. No, we're going to definitely circle back on that. How about anybody else?
Well said.
I would just add to that I think regardless of the reasons for why these things happen in such short time frames, a short time frame is never the best when you're having to make educated decisions. So unfortunately, as Rhonda and Anessa were saying, regardless of why we get it at that point, it definitely puts pressure on employers to make decisions, sometimes in rash timelines that might not be what they are hoping for.
Yeah, I mean, having owned and ran a couple of sales organizations, it definitely does feel like a squeeze kind of thing to get people to kind of move along and sign on the dotted line. Yes, we are going to talk a little bit more about that kind of stuff, but I'm curious, Anessa, let's jump into what you just brought up, that there were some questions or some areas that you thought need to be addressed or researched in preparation for these things. Do you mind expanding a little bit more on that?
Well, I think, as I plan out the plan year, and that as an HR leader, that's important to also plan out the benefits aspect, the wellness aspects of things, and partner with finance. So what I've come across is we usually, try to keep it. Maybe there's obvious. I'm not a finance person, so don't ask me. But there's a formula where they do every year. It's a little bit more. But I think for example, for me, if I heard around the grapevine, yes, the benefits are going to go up and things like that, but I was hit with a very high percentage. So I think that one of the things is to actually work with your finance team to kind of make sure that they're planning in their budgets for those things too. As for the employee aspect of things, so what I like to do is kind of do pulse surveys, not just on the organization, but also kind of on the benefits of the things that they're looking for in the organization, right? Because when we're talking about benefits, it's medical, dental, but people don't think about like even life insurance as part of it, right? Pet insurance. There's just a plethora, like there's different EAP programs that go into that plan year also. So there's a lot of things you can also enhance the program with, and also things that are not working. So for example, one of my organizations, we had a legal firm, where people can help with, I actually utilized in one of my organizations where I only paid, let's say $250 to do a trust because I paid into that. Right. And so adding that, but then I also looked at a population where we had a lot of people that weren't utilizing that. So is that something that we want to pay for? So a lot of those back end things, and really, for me, it's super important to partner obviously with our leadership, with our finance, but really understand what the employees also need. So that way, let's say if we're paying a lot for something that nobody's utilizing, can we take that money and give it into a wellness program that people do want to utilize?
Yeah. Great point. And that kind of leads me to my next question, because most business leaders are looking at spreadsheets and spreadsheets only when it comes to the healthcare and benefits side of it. And I loved how you stated that you kind of advocating for the employee. As we know, Monique is all about the employee advocacy as well. So where do you really find that balance of trying to get the leaders to ask the right questions where it still falls within their spreadsheet analysis or their spreadsheet budgets that they're trying to balance? What kind of questions would you recommend that businesses ask, or that you ask the business leaders if you're like coming from an HR perspective or if you're coming from a broker's perspective, so that you know that you're taking care of the employee and they're still hitting their bottom line.
So I think that's a really great question and complex. I think what goes across the desk of the CEO or the owner of the company is a really high level. You're getting the maybe a breakdown of, A, B, and C, what the prices are, maybe a comparison of what they were last year to what they're going to be next year. But they are not actually breaking down. Like, I would want to see an itemized, what are all the bolt-on services? Do we have an EAP? Do we have a nurse 24/7 line? What's our wellness program? What do each of them cost per employee per month? And are we utilizing them? Like, most of them, utilization is under 10%. That is not a good use of your money. So those are the questions I would say, because you're looking at the numbers, saying that's a total. How did we get to that total?
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Anyone else?
I would agree with that. But for me, it's super important to kind of, I talked about the employee perspective, but yes, like making sure, and I want to make sure, like, whether it's a broker or a larger organization, I'm partnering them throughout the year and, understanding what their trends are too. So, it's important. Like, do you have any new add-ons? Those are so going back to the leadership aspect of things. I mean, Rhonda's absolutely right. They don't want to see all that. They want me to summarize it, give them a couple of scenarios and really tell them what I think. And then they'll go from there. And so that's why it's super important to have that information ahead of time. And so even if I was caught off guard, it's good to already have things in play that I can actually kind of work with to say, how do I lower this, or how do I make this more robust? Because I've already had that information throughout the time frame. And so I definitely suggest getting a really good contact and having those conversations, and really not just waiting for open enrollment time to go, oh, I got to do this big signage and this big bill, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that if we peel back the layers of the onion of this whole thing, it really boils down to having good partners, as you mentioned. It's not one specific person. It's not the insurer. It's not the broker. It's not the HR person. It's like CEO all the way down to your TPA in a sense, right? It's really interesting when all of those come into unison, how effective in cost savings, increased in benefits, happier, healthier employees across the board. And as you kind of look at some of these existing businesses and that are relying solely on one element of, I rely on my broker basically to ensure that I'm getting the good deal, or I'm relying on my HR director to give us the best deal out there that I'm just going to sign. I'm going to trust them, right? So one question, I guess this next question is geared more towards Brad. So sorry, I don't mean to single you out on this one, but you're our broker for today. But when it boils down to trusting your broker, how do you know? What are some questions that you would want your clients asking you to build that layer of trust?
Yeah, I would want to hear, like, how many insurance carriers did you quote, just to make sure you're getting a broad range of different carriers and different plan designs. That's probably one of the biggest questions. Just make sure, like, and then if they want to shop with another agent, it's always good to double check those things, double check your numbers, and that's totally fine. We expect that as agents, and I think you should work with someone you trust and who comes across right.
Okay, perfect. Anybody else have any questions that the business owner should be asking their brokers? I know you got a few tidbits around to jump in there.
I think, probably more like whoever's creating the plan or making that decision, the business owner is going to be looking at the bottom line. How much is it going to cost? But there's a lot of questions we need to be asking along the way. Like, what are we incentivizing? How is this plan incentivizing the employee to use healthcare? And are we just putting off high claims for later because we're not incentivizing primary care? Or are we, there's just a lot of things, ways you can maneuver deductibles and copays to drive utilization to the most efficient and least expensive place. So I want to know that the plan is built in that way. And how is this plan going to be utilized?
That's a good one.
Well, I'd like to also see, like, if I'm working with a broker, like they're that what is the, like, what are the they see it across, they're not just working with my company or me, they're going to be working across the board. So what are they seeing as their trends? I would love to hear, and I would build trust that way, to have them also recommend, right, what they're seeing for the organization. One of my previous companies, we had such a high, I've never seen such a high percentage of people were in Kaiser, and like, why, like, can we go dig into that a little bit more? Or, and exactly like Rhonda said, are people going to the doctors? Are they not? Those are the things that we want to hear from also the broker. And also, again, what about things that we, maybe Rhonda, myself, and Monique wouldn't know to ask? I would love for the broker to actually give us some tidbits to think about that maybe we'll take it to the next role. I mean, that's not always going to happen, right, Brad? But but possibly, just kind of get some information. It's always good to learn and understand what's happening in the population and I'm also always interested to see what else is happening in maybe the same size organizations or in the same field of organizations.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think we've all had those math teachers that when we were doing math equations would always tell us to show our work, right? So, I mean, what kind of data can you really get? I know that for a lot of plans, you get the data at the end of the year. And like with some other plans, like self-funded plans, you get the data almost instantly on a weekly basis type of thing. But, when it comes to showing that data, like, what should the businesses be looking at? How many people they've got signed up? How many people are participating? I mean, I think it goes a lot deeper than that, but you guys tell me, what kind of data should we be asking for in order to make those good decisions for the upcoming year?
I can start that one. I would say that I want to know about usage rates, or business owners should want to know about usage rates of all the different aspects of the plans that they're bringing in. Like, how are all of these different things being used? Kind of refers back to the first question we said, is this one service only being used by 5% of people, but it's costing us this amount? So having that information is really, really crucial, I think, for the situation to progress in a way that we are making the right decisions for our people. And then I think I lost what I was going to say, you guys. I don't even remember. There was a really good point, I promise. So I'm just going to leave it.
Well, when you get it, circle back in, okay? No, it's good. Anybody else want to jump in?
I actually think Monique made a really good point. What in healthcare, particularly, what we're buying does not actually equal value. You can buy a $10 drug that's going to have increase your life and the quality of your life by 10 years, and you can buy a $1 million drug that will increase your quality of life and life by 2 months. And so our benefits are not equal, and it's good to know what are we buying and why are we buying it, and is it a wise use of our money? And they actually have measurements to determine every single piece, and they measure years of life, and it's like 1.2 or 5 or 0.5, and you look at those. Is this, sometimes that year costs $100,000, sometimes it costs $10, and I think if it costs like $50,000 or less, they consider it worth your time. But so many of like the GLP-1s are like hundreds of thousands of dollars for an extended year of life. They're just not. We're not getting our money's worth.
Right. Right. That makes sense.
Well, and to add to that, I remember my other point now, and which was the population satisfaction. So if we're bringing in all of these different aspects that we're investing financially in, and we have this plan and we have this program going and this type of benefit, but my population isn't happy with the benefits we're bringing, I need to know that data. And as a business owner, you need to know that so that you're making the best choices for next year. So knowing the overall satisfaction that you're having in your employee organization is really important.
Well, it also depends on the type of plan that you're on too, right? Because you could get all this data, you can get all these year-end reports, but depending on the type of plan, correct me if I'm wrong here, but depending on the type of plan, you really don't have a lot to say. You just say, oh, this is great data, thank you, and move on, right? What are those plans that you can't really do much with it comes to the data side of it?
Fully funded plan, you can't do much with it. And most of them don't provide much data. Maybe a very high level if you have enough employees. Self-funded plan, the HR is getting an email every week, but I don't know that anybody actually wants to click in and look at the granular details of the plan. And for good reason. They're trying to protect the privacy of their employee. So
that makes sense. That makes sense. So there's a question from somebody that's watching. It says, is it easy to get the utilization numbers? So 2 questions I would say is, for those that are listening, I never knew what utilization numbers were before I started chatting with you folks. But it would be interesting to have somebody explain what the utilization number is, but then answer that question. Is it easy to get utilization numbers?
Brad, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sorry, it took me a minute to get off mute, and I gotta run here in a couple seconds. But your utilization numbers, I can correct me, Rhonda, if I'm wrong here, but it's just knowing how your employees are using your coverage, and where are some, like if they're going to the ER for a sniffle, that's something you want to look at and maybe train the employee to go to an online care, or to the doctor or urgent care to reduce costs there. Yeah.
I can
the access, I would say, depends on the plan. If it's just a normal ACA plan, it's pretty difficult to get those numbers. But if level funded and self funded, you can start really getting those numbers and digging into those.
Okay, that makes sense. Perfect. You wanted to add something, Monique?
Yeah, I was going to piggyback on kind of that definition by giving kind of a layman's definition. I think of this as similar to like the pantry items you have. So I have all of these items in my pantry. And what am I using the most of? What ingredients do I just let go bad? Do my cans of black beans always go bad? They're not getting used, but I'm buying them. And that's kind of a good example of how utilization is. So if I'm the business owner and I have my pantry of benefits that I'm giving people, and I can tap into information, and like Brad said, sometimes it's really easy to get that access to information, but sometimes it's not, depending on the type of plan you have. But I want to know what ingredients I'm buying for no reason that no one's baking cookies with, or nobody likes the almond flour and I don't have any gluten-free people that are using my pantry. So I don't need that ingredient to keep being put back into our pantry every single year. So that's kind of how I like to look at utilization in just like a really layman's terms.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Anybody else want to add?
I was just going to say, I think it's pretty, I think they need to provide that information, right? I think it depends on when they provide it is the situation. It's how you also set it up, right? That's one of the negotiation tactics you could also have. Maybe do a quarterly review of what's utilizing, so you could see if it's trending up or down. So things along those lines. So if the question is it fairly easy to get? Overall, I think yes, but if you want it very detailed, then I think that you're not going to get as much information. I'm not as familiar with how it looks with the self-funded, but I would say in the general aspect of things, there's a lot of HIPAA protected, right? But you could definitely see categories of where things are being used. You can negotiate when you get that information. I think so that's important, because otherwise, if you're blindly going in and picking your benefits as an employee, and then as a business owner, and as the CEO or HR team, then that really does not do well for any side.
It's really like stocking your pantry with a bunch of ingredients and hoping there's a recipe to go along with it.
Exactly. So it's just absolutely, yeah. So I think it's really how you negotiate it and really what you push for too. And sometimes you do get stuck, but then maybe that's not the broker or the plan, or you might need to look at next open enrollment where you should plan for and who you should be working with, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it looks like we lost Brad, but we picked up John. So, John, welcome back. And do you want to do just a quick little intro since you missed the intro at the beginning?
Sure. Yeah, sorry I'm late. It is fourth quarter. Lots of companies trying to get things renewed and figured out this year. My name is John Knutson. I'm the owner of Knutson Benefits Group. We're insurance brokers, benefit consultants. We're trying to help people navigate this whole mess and trying to help them take better control of their health plans and navigate them through health insurance. So happy to be here.
Nice. Well, welcome back, my friend. So as I told Brad earlier and the rest of the panel, this is not an attack on brokers by any means, but we are asking a lot of the questions about what should business leaders be asking their brokers. And we've talked about a few different things. One thing that I will come right out of the gate firing at you. How about that? Yeah. So, when it comes to leaders actually questioning their renewal prices, are they afraid, or are they just too nervous to shop around and just take what you give them?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of businesses that just put a lot of trust in their person, in their broker, and they feel like, whatever you say is what I'm going to do. And this is expensive stuff. Like, for a business, this is probably, outside of payroll, this has got to be one of your largest business expenses. Are you really going to do it like that? Are you just going to fully, blindly trust that your buddy, your friend, the person you worked with forever is doing you right? If I'm you, I'm looking around. I'm verifying. I'm making sure that this is the case. I hate to rag on my own industry, my own folk here, but there's a lot of insurance brokers that are just doing the easy, and it's very easy for them to show up and just sing the swan song of how hard it is out there, how all the renewals are going up. So this is really, I think it's best if you stay put, you just renew as is. I think you got to question, you got to push back. You've got to know that there are creative things happening. This year, more than any year I've had in the past, there are creative solutions that are available for companies of all different sizes. If your broker is getting a little bit lackadaisical and just trying to, especially in fourth quarter, there's a lot going on. It's very busy, so it's tempting just to say, oh, this client's a really good friend of mine. Maybe I'll just really push for that renewal. Push back. This is too expensive not to.
So what kind of questions should they be asking you, their broker, as pushback questions?
Yeah, thanks, Cody. What they need to be asking is, who did you go out to? What other options did you look at? And I'm telling you, if they don't have more than a dozen options that they're looking at, because there's some brokers out there that just say, okay, well, here's the 3 or 4 options that I'm used to using. I go to 12 to 15, depending on the size of company. In certain states, you are limited. Below 10 employees here in Utah. That's where my business is located, is in Utah. They've got some funny laws out here that restrict a small business from doing some things. But other states, down to 3 employees, we have got very creative solutions. My options list is about 12 to 15 companies strong. So if you're not getting that kind of work on your plan, you're not hearing about what else is out there. So that's a question I would certainly ask. What did you do? Who did you go to? What were their responses? Push them for that kind of transparency, because they should be able to answer that for you.
That sounds good. I think I got them up to speed, everybody. I think that's pretty much a lot of the questions we asked. Did I miss anything there? No.
Well, I had a question for John, actually. So how far in advance should the broker be looking, and should we be talking to the broker, right?
Yeah, that's great. Another thing that I see in my industry is that a lot of brokers wait for the renewal. And there are some insurance companies that are slow releasing their renewals. I've got a client right now who has yet to see their January 1st renewal. The insurance company is saying, I'm not going to give you till November 15th, which is super late. So we've been working on January. We got renewals from a lot of our carriers a month ago, some even before that. But so how soon? I mean, you should be, if you haven't heard from your broker yet, like there's something going on. There's something wrong there. I would say, for us, we don't wait for the renewal to come. We start shopping it right away, because chances are really good that the incumbent carrier, if you're with a fully insured or level funded insurance company, their renewals are not looking good this year. We got tipped off on that super early on, and so we're pushing our groups out there. Yes, a lot of the quoting carriers will ask for the renewal. They'll want to see that. But hopefully the good brokers are out there shopping it ahead of time, so that at the last minute you can just provide that renewal and have those options ready to go for their clients. So you should be hearing from them now. That's what we're busy doing right now. This week, last week, next week, this is when we're presenting and making decisions for January 1st. So yeah, if you're not hearing from them, give them a call. Don't wait.
So that brings up an interesting question that I had on my list here. I said that some businesses get one and sign immediately, and then others get 5+ options. And there's so many different things to go through. I think, did I hear you correctly that you would push people 12 to 15 different options that they could choose from? Is that correct, John?
Yeah.
So what specific questions would help somebody sift through all of that noise of all those different plans to be able to find what they really need for their organization and for their employees?
Well, hopefully the broker will be doing a lot of that work for you. I mean, because a lot of them will be high. Some of them will be a decline to quote. So so to be able to report to a client to say, here's the effort we went through. I mean, at least this is the way we do it. So here's the effort we went through. Here's the results that we found. And so from the competitive options, these are the ones that look best. Pros and cons, you go through those. Maybe it's a network thing that you're dealing with. Maybe it's a plan design difference. You want to be, as an employer, you want to be sure that you're comparing apples to apples. We always like to start that way. Wherever you are, let's compare apples to apples to make sure that it's a fair comparison. And then from there, if we find a competitive option and then we want to pursue, different layers or different quotes from that competitive carrier, then we can dive into it from there. But I think a lot of times companies get confused because they're being presented totally different options. And so I would press on them to say, a question they could ask is this a true apples to apples comparison? Or are there some details about this quote that I need to know about? Can I share a little warning? A popular inexpensive plan option that I'm seeing a lot of carriers tout these days is a reference-based pricing model, RBP. This is where essentially it's a model where the insurance plan strong arms the doctors into a forced lower payment. And I've just got to tell you, beware of RBP. I've talked to many companies that have tried this, and it has blown up in their face. Their employees are super upset. The doctors are mad. The doctors are balance billing. This is an example of a broker might come in and say, yeah, here's these quotes. Look how much cheaper this one is. And they just sell it on price alone. You've got to ask, what is the impact to my employees? what will this plan look like in the hands of my people? And you've got to press back on that because you could be getting into a real nasty situation.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, from an employee standpoint, a lot of them just want to know what's my deductible, what are my top 3 to 5 benefits that I get? Is my doctor still in network? And also, benefits deductible, and what's going to be deducted from my paycheck. It seems like those are the 3-4 questions they typically ask. And I know as a business owner, I've asked the same thing of like, okay, great. How much is it going to cost me out of pocket? Does this cover what network? Okay, great. Yeah, that's pretty good. A lot of doctors in that network or whatever. This covers a lot of different services. Great. Check, check, check. So it's almost like checkbox things for me. But I know that, you get in with a real HR person that's really adamant about making sure that they have healthy, happy employees. So they're trying to look out way more than I would as a business owner. So that's interesting to come across. Does anybody else have anything they wanted to add off of what John just said?
I have something to say in regards to what John said. I think, and it kind of goes with what you said, Cody, too, was a really important question for employers to be asking their broker is, why are you bringing me these plans for my specific population? Like, an employer and a broker who care are going to know what their population of employees is like. And so a broker that's taking time like John is to bring 12 plus plans, I want to know, why are you bringing those? How do they correlate to what I am looking for my employees? Do you know where the areas where my employees live? Do you know what kind of eating style the majority of my employees have? That can be based on location and just knowing about different specifics about that population. And so I would love for employers to ask brokers, why is this plan important for my specific population? Why would you have selected this for us? I think that's a really important question.
I think that's the top question of the hour so far.
Well, I also have a two-parter that I was thinking. I have a funny story and then a question, because I've also been, if a corporate office, let's say, is like in New York and you have a majority of California employees, that's also kind of a question, things that I've come up with where for some reason it creates a lot of chaos in the, for some reason they can't find it for some reason. So John, I was going to say, is that something still of a factor? If you're basically have California, let's say I'm in California and I have California employees, but the plan is out of Wichita, Kansas. And for some reason, there's some sort of disconnect where there's a lot of problems on the back end with that. Is that a normal practice, or is that something that's been taken care of, or have you seen that at all?
Man, you gotta be sure that you're that there's good connection, wherever those employees are. That'd be another good question. Will this plan work for me and my employees where they live? Your broker should know that. They need to know the reach. And if there's a question, then he should be willing to do some sample, some investigation to figure out who are your employees, where do they live, what doctors do they like to see. Let's do some sample testing to make sure that they have the access that they need. That's an important piece of it.
Right. Well, and my funny story is that I was looking at brokers, and so I was very adamant about not going with this broker because they literally wanted us to cancel our plan with the provider that we currently have so they could shop around without even giving us pricing to give us pricing. So I thought, wow, that is really bold sales move. So that was not something that I was going to go for, but I thought that was they were very much they were very bold about it, and I said, you know what, no way.
Yeah. Can I add another question, Cody, that everybody should be asking their broker?
Absolutely, that's what we're here for.
Have you guys talked about broker compensation yet?
Nope.
Can we just get into that for a minute?
Since you brought it up, I wasn't going to go there, but since you brought it up, we'll go there. How about that?
This is important. Here's another question for all the business owners out there. When you're presented with a bunch of options, ask your broker, are you getting paid the same on all of these options? What does your compensation structure look like? it's super important that you ask that. If I'll give you a couple of scenarios. If your broker is being paid a percentage of premium, that is, I would be quite upset about that if I were you, because that means when I get a 20% renewal increase, that means my broker just got a 20% raise. I think brokers should not be paid on a percentage. They should have a fixed dollar amount that they're paid. Just tell me what you need to be profitable. I'm all for people making money. This is good that people provide value and get paid for it. But when you're getting this, this percentage of premium, I just think that's a very strange way to get paid. So challenge them on that, because they have the control to adjust that. It's not standardized. A broker has control over their pay. There are some solutions out there that force a specific per employee per month amount, and that's okay. I feel like that's fine, because for the number of people, if you have more people, then you have to service them. So I think that's okay to do a per employee per month charge, but have that be a fixed amount that doesn't change over time. Also, beware that some insurance companies are creating incentives to have more and more clients with them. So there are trips that these insurance companies will send brokers on if they keep a number of business there, if they bring in new clients to them. There are bonuses, there are trips, and these false incentives could cloud the judgment of your broker, because he might be looking at his own self-interest rather than yours. And I don't think that's their job. They need to represent you as the client, and they should be very willing to talk about how they're compensated. And if they start getting nervous, that would make me nervous about my arrangement with them.
But that doesn't happen in this industry.
I was just going to say, this is great information even for individual, for car insurance, and because I would agree. I had to really push to negotiate like my car insurance, right? Because the information that I asked, they weren't ready to give to me, right? So I think great advice all around for businesses and just individuals on their own.
How about if you have a self-funded health plan? Watch out, man. Brokers they're getting paid a lot more than you think. A lot of times these self-funded arrangements will have broker compensation layered into every little piece. Stop loss, pharmacy, the PBM might be paying. You've got all these little revenue streams that are pushing over to the broker. So he may tell you, oh yeah, this is what I'm, getting paid. But press him again and say, is this all you're getting paid? Or are you getting paid anywhere else? Is there any other incentive built into this plan? And will you please be open and honest with me about that? So.
Yeah, and I think that's a good one to bring up, because one of the questions that I did have for the brokers that were on here was when somebody asks, is that the best rate that I can get? I think that it's across the board for anybody wanting to sound educated or knowledgeable. But it's kind of one of those cop-out questions where it's just like, is this the best rate? John, you could tell me, yes, it is. And I could be like, okay, great. Yeah, okay, I'll sign, right? Or in my opinion, it's a great way for a broker to basically say, yes, it is, because you have this, you have that, and be able to explain it to me why it's the best one. To me, that builds so much trust with the individual. And at that point, I love with what you just said about the compensation, because that would be a phenomenal follow-up question to that. Is this the best rate I'm getting? And what are you getting paid on this type of thing? And it doesn't matter. You can always ask. It doesn't hurt to ask, right?
Yeah.
They can share it or they can't, or they won't.
And a little, we love AI. AI can be great. Go ahead and ask AI, what should my insurance broker be getting paid? It'll give you a pretty awesome answer. So take a look at that. And that, if your broker is open and honest about how he's getting paid, throw that amount into AI and see what AI thinks about that. That you might be surprised that they're getting paid a little bit more than they should, probably.
Nah, I love it. I love it. So we've definitely come up with a plethora of a list of just different questions to ask. But I love the question that Monique asked. I like the question that John brought up. And so you brought up Anessa, you brought up some good ones as well. And, these are the things that we all just need to be educated on and not be afraid to just ask and push back. Because like John pointed out, this is the biggest bill behind payroll that you'll definitely be paying every year. So we're almost at the top of the hour. I do have one more question for you guys, and then we'll let you guys just take a few minutes just to kind of do a sign off and pitch and show your companies that you're with. I would love to hear that. So the last question that I have is, I want you guys to personally grade yourself on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the best, 1 being the lowest. How well did you question your last insurance renewal with your broker? And what one question do you wish you would have asked that you didn't? So it's a 2-part question.
I can answer that first. I'm probably like a 3. I'm probably somewhere in the middle, based on just up until recently lack of knowledge of that I had. Like John is saying, a lot of us, they're just presented to us and we don't know. We talked about that at the beginning too. I think for me, I would go back and I would ask, and this kind of adds to what you said, Cody, earlier, the question you asked, but why is this rate the best on what it encompasses? Like, that's what I want my broker to tell me now. What is encompassed in this plan? What am I getting at this rate that makes you think this rate is so great? I want to know. So that's the question I would go back in with for sure.
That's a great one.
I mean, I would also probably go to a 3, just thinking about my last experience. I think that I would definitely do more things ahead of time and then really push them, and make sure that I know exactly what the dates are and what the timeframes are, and keep a closer relationship with the people that I'm working with internally and externally, to really kind of balance that. And then, like I said, the people experience is really important. So really do a lot more, as much as you can on both sides, for the people and for the business, right? So that's.
Love it. All right, Rhonda.
So I don't know. I think we should maybe ask John. I've been on the phone with him a couple hours last week asking questions about a plan. I'd say I'm probably closer to 4 or 5. But I know the questions to ask, that's why we're doing the podcast, right? What questions do I even ask? When you find a really good broker like John, you can even ask questions like, okay, I'm self-funded. How do I incentivize you to make money based on how much I spend? So I'll pay you more if we spend less. You find a really good broker like John, they'll work with you to do that, because with self-funded, you have so much control and there's so much ability to work with the dollars that you have, that you really want a broker who's working to use those dollars in the most wise way as well. And I'm sure John would negotiate with me if I pushed him on that.
Yeah, no, I mean, truly, you gotta look at things differently. I reiterated this earlier. Like, I think too many of us are stuck in this rut of the way health insurance has always been done. It doesn't have to be that way anymore. Like, there are so many more interesting solutions now. Partnering with Well Trio is definitely one of those, because you are able to come in and influence healthcare spending. Employers, that's what you need to be focusing on. Stop focusing on premium, but start looking broader and realize that what we're dealing with is healthcare spending problems here. So we need to change the conversation. We need to make it so that we are more asking about, how can I help my employees seek wiser uses of care, and let that then translate over to less expensive options and plans. So we need to change the way this whole conversation is happening.
And that's why we're doing this podcast, is so that we can kind of control that narrative and get it out there, because it just seems like everybody that I've checked into that do these healthcare podcasts are the ones that are asking a lot of the mainstream questions of like, hey, what products are coming out? What's this? Well, why should we be creating more products in a broken system when they don't even work? They fail half the time and they aren't even beneficial for the employees at the end of the day. And so, but yeah, thank you guys for coming and taking time out of your busy schedule. John, I'm glad you were able to get out of your meeting so that you could come join us as always. We want to thank Brad for coming as well. Had some great insight on a couple of the questions we were able to ask him before he had to jump off, and we'll get him back on for another couple of episodes upcoming. But with that being said, let's go around the horn. Monique, I'll start with you, and just a 30-second outro. Tell us, I know you've got some good things cooking over there at Well Trio, and then, just go from there.
Yeah, so my name is Monique, and I work with Well Trio. I'm a health and benefits advocate and coach. And my desire is really to help people to know how to utilize their benefits so they can live the best quality of life and be better employees, essentially, and help cut costs for their employers. So I'm just here to love people, like I said at the beginning, and help them make the best choices for themselves.
Love it. Love it. All right, John, I'm going to save you for the last. We'll let the ladies go first. Okay. So, Anessa, go for it.
I mean, great kind of piggybacking off of Monique. I mean, for me, people is very important. That's kind of why I'm in the people space of people and culture, right? And so I'm, like I said earlier, with Sunstone. So we do fractional work. We go into an organization and bet ourselves, whether it's for a project or consulting, or you need somebody in term, or you just want to chat through anything from compliance to recruiting to just even building out a whole HR function. So Sunstone HR, feel free to connect with me and the team, and we're kind of across the country. So we're very well versed on different aspects of HR, many years of experience. So feel free to reach out. And thanks for the group and Cody and Well Trio for having me, and John, I'll connect with you too.
You know, that's what this is all about, is like I said earlier, it takes a team to make the savings substantial and make it very beneficial for the employees. So networking, being able to reach out to the folks to kind of fill those gaps is what this podcast is all about as well. So I'm glad we were able to make some connections for you two. I definitely recommend Sunstone HR. They're amazing. We'll get Rod back on here one of these days once he decides he wants to be not so skittish, but we'll get him back on here. I know he's a busy guy. I'm just giving him a hard time. But anyways, Rhonda, last but not least, let's go with you.
So Rhonda with Well Trio. You can find us at welltrio.com. I just want to reiterate the importance of being willing to take those risks. You know, a great broker like John can bring you all these options, and there are a lot of smart, creative benefit options, but I think there's a fear that our employees won't know how to use them. And so if you use a company like Well Trio, who walks every employee through the plan and teaches them and handholds them through so that they can use it wisely, that's a smart way to pair a creative plan to make it actually work in your benefit.
100%. All right, John, bring us home.
No, it's all great stuff. If you've been watching this and you feel like you're maybe not hearing the whole story, that you've got a broker that's stuck in the past and not looking to the future, I'd love to help out. We'd love to come in and provide alternate quotes, alternate looks, even just conversations. Like, let's just talk about it and see what we can do to help. We really specialize in trying to help people with everything that's new and interesting. We're forward looking. We're trying to bring group solutions that are innovative, self-funded solutions, cash-centric solutions. We've really got a lot that we can do to help people out in bringing these premiums down and improve the healthcare spending of their employees. So would welcome any of that. Our website's knutsonbenefits.com. Head on over there. I'd love to connect with you and see if there's more that we can do to help.
No, I love it. Love it. Again, thanks to our panelists for coming in. And if you happen to be an HR person, broker, even insurer, I don't even care if you're a nurse that works in the medical industry, I want to hear from you, especially if you're willing to push the status quo of what we're facing here with the broken healthcare system. We want to hear your perspective. We want to hear your thoughts, because this is definitely a safe space for us to just come and talk about what nobody else wants to talk about and talk about that hard stuff. So with that being said, thanks, everybody. Tune in every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Mountain Pacific time. We would love to have you guys join in. And until then, keep working to fix this problem that we have called healthcare. So until then, have a good one, everybody. Talk to you later.